Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/entitled people for you all, another up-and-coming staple of the channel. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinion, and I hope you do the same down below in the comments. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. 1961 Tracy. Campers learn that you need a reservation. Many years ago, an old boyfriend and I had reserved a camping spot in California for the 4th of July. It used to be that you only needed reservations for popular campgrounds, but they developed a much-needed reservation system for all campgrounds. Reservations were a must because that year, the 4th landed on a Wednesday, making campsites unavailable or reserved for the whole week. The campground belonged to the state and was a walk-in campsite. For those not familiar with walk-in campgrounds, you park your car in a parking lot and walk about a 1/4 mile to the campsite. Both the parking lot and the entrance to the sites had signs stating that camping was by reservation only. We get there a little before check-in time and notice a group of people had set up on our site and left to go hiking or sightseeing. At 4 o'clock, the ranger arrives and we explain that someone is in our site and give him our reservation confirmation. We offer to move to the next closest site, but the ranger said that all sites are reserved. He told us he'll have them move once they return. He also stated that the people didn't pay the day use fee either. To kill time, boyfriend and I go for a hike and have a quick dinner of sandwiches. About 3 hours later, we get back to the campground and the group is very slowly moving their things. There's 4 adults and about 3 kids. The adults are dragging out leaving by taking one thing at a time to their vehicles. To slow things down more, they had a pickup truck specifically for firewood and could only move a log or 2 at a time back to the pickup. You'd think they'd have a wheelbarrow for all that wood. It starts to get dark, so we bring out the tent and sleeping stuff for when the site is ready. We figured we could unpack the rest the next morning. As we're removing our things from the car, a member of the group confronts me. He got my name from the reservation list, the checking spot. He asked why I was so lazy as to not move to a space farther out. Boyfriend and the ranger told him to shut up. This only made the man angrier. His wife and his friends started to verbally attack us, telling us if we wanted the space so bad, then we should have gotten there before them. They kept insisting we invalidated our reservation by not being there early. Some other campers were watching the whole thing play out and offered us to hang with them and have cold beverages, which we gratefully did. By this time, the ranger had enough of their moaning and threatened to have local law enforcement trespass them. They finally get the picture and move everything out. We get to set up. I put some stuff on the picnic table when I noticed they left a nasty letter to us. In short, they blamed us for ruining their kids' 4th of July. They wouldn't get to see fireworks, have s'mores, or see the stars at night. Instead, we have to go to a motel. Worse, they threatened confrontation if they see us around the area. I folded up the letter and gave it to the ranger the next day. If there are signs clearly posted that they needed a reservation and even knew to check the reservation check-in list to find your name, then they knew they were doing something wrong. Personally, I'm not a fan of camping. I'm a cabin princess. I don't like having bugs in the tent. However, if you failed to make proper reservations for your camping, then that's on you. I find it honestly shocking that they have the audacity to leave a letter in place, essentially threatening them that if we see you, we're gonna show you. Yeah, because that makes sense. That proves that you're in the right. I would have really loved to know what was going through their head or be a fly on the wall while they were writing that letter. Yeah, this'll show them. This'll guilt them. Yeah, they'll have to give us the camping space now. And they were probably dragging their feet and packing up slowly because they were hoping that they could convince the family who had actually reserved the camping spot that, "Nuh-uh, we deserve to be here," and attempting to woo them with their charismatic charm of, "You're lazy and because you were late, the spot's forfeit." Honestly, the ranger should have just given them a fine and called it good. Wait, can rangers give fines out? If they can, that's what he should have done. Anaglyph. I thought they were house sitters. They think they're roommates. So we just got back from a week-long vacation. One of the guys my husband knows from board game nights needed a place to crash with his wife for a convention and some job search logistics in our city, and we have cats. So having them house sit seemed like a win-win. Gonna call the wife Bonnie and the husband Clyde. They also needed a bit of time after our trip, which was also fine. One of our cats is kinda difficult, and 1 week of dedicated care was about equal to 2 weeks of crash space. They asked us if they could maybe stay a bit longer based on how the job search went. We thought that meant a few days. I know we're all trying to do less guest culture, but if you're sleeping in someone's living room, how would that not mean a few days? They asked for 3 months. Feeling a bit put on the spot, we agreed to 1 month, but even then, they're trying to tack on a few more days. on until Bonnie's birthday. Now that I write this, I kind of wonder if the math is they won't kick us out on my birthday. My house isn't set up for roommates. It's barely set up for long visits. It has both my husband and I on edge. My husband is now in full bitch-eating crackers mode, where every little thing they do is setting him on edge. And, of course, they do a lot of little things, like leaving half-eaten food, or half-drunk sodas out, or spreading their stuff in the common area, which probably seems reasonable because we don't really have a private area for them, but I'm not really sure why they want to be here for 3 months. They'll be in a bad place if we kick them out. Their old place, the one they want to move from, is about 3 hours away, and due to a paperwork snafu, Clyde can't legally drive right now. Bonnie has a job now, but during training it won't pay enough for them to get an apartment. It's not a good situation, and I don't want to put them in a worse spot, but they can't stay here forever. Honestly, having them here past this weekend, like we'd originally agreed, is a really big imposition. I have big logistical complicated events running each weekend after that until mid-September, and I need space to prepare. Is there a way to get them out of our house without torching friendships? Update, we know lawyers that specialize in evictions. Yeah, it's a nasty business, but the dark secret of lawyers is the more their firm looks like a Hallmark movie villain, the better the office culture is. If they really make us do it, we can do it pretty efficiently, and there's some social consequences that will follow for them. If they were thinking that was an option, that's going to get very ugly for them very quickly. Update, the second. Something came up and they'd objectively be monsters if they tried to stay past the date we originally agreed on. So that's currently the plan, and we're not budging on it. They aren't monsters, they're just people who expect one solution to all their problems. I should clarify for the sake of Clyde. I should have said he can't legally drive his car. The paperwork isn't anything to do with his license. Keep your fingers crossed. We shouldn't need to go the legal route, but I mean it when I say it. If it came to legally removing them, we have hot and cold running lawyers on tap, alongside extremely friendly laws for property owners, and it would be a pain, but it would not be a drawn-out process, and they wouldn't like the results. Final update. They're out. Bonnie tried to stage a medical thing while we packed their car, but we didn't stop loading their stuff, and in the end, she followed her stuff. So they're out, on the day that we originally agreed. They're going back to the small city as far as I know. I really can't believe someone could act like my friend and then act entitled to squat in the common area of my house indefinitely. It's of my opinion that they were definitely trying to aim for squatters' rights, or perhaps some kind of like weird pseudo-tenants' rights that would happen if they were staying in an area for a prolonged period of time under a verbal agreement. I don't know, it depends on the state they're in, if they're even in America for that matter, but there are laws in place that could definitely cause complications, so it's definitely good of them to begin looking at and considering legal options if it did come to it. Thankfully, they got them out. If I was in a position where I had to stay on someone's couch because I was in a very rough spot in my life, I would never be leaving half-eaten food, half-drank soda cans, my stuff everywhere. I would make sure that I was like the best live-in possible tenant that I could be in a situation like this. But with them furthering and extending how long they were staying over and over and over again, I do have this sneaking suspicion they were probably trying to establish some kind of weird tenant rights. And if that's the case, they never wanted to be your friend in the first place. They were just using you, or they just saw an easy ticket for a quick little ride that could make their life easier for a short time being at the expense of you. If they had no interest in getting out of the house at a decent time, or even being just decent quote-unquote tenants, they had no interest in maintaining the relationship or friendship for that matter, and it's definitely a shame they took advantage of your goodwill. Lord Baranoff. Lady wants my Rollator. For those that don't know, a Rollator is basically a walker on wheels. I had a stroke 6 years ago and my balance and vision got messed up. I can maybe walk 20 to 25 feet on a flat surface without help, but I need my Rollator to take long walks and take it with me whenever I go somewhere. I normally have weekly groceries delivered to me at my apartment, but every month or 6 weeks, depending on schedules, my mom will take me to a specialty grocery store, where I can get a lot of prepackaged meals that I just have to put in the microwave for a while. We were on one of these trips and were waiting in the line checking out. The Rollator that the insurance covers was a piece of cheap white plastic, so last Christmas, my mom bought me one that is black steel and titanium composition. It also has a pouch in the back for storing things, and when I need a break, I can lock the wheels, and it has a fold-out bench I can sit on. So, while my groceries are being checked out, I folded the bench and sat down waiting. When we were done, I got up and unlocked the wheels while my mom rolled out my cart of groceries. I had barely got 5 feet when a lady walked up and grabbed my rollator saying, "I'll take this." I said no, and jerked it away from her and proceeded to follow my mom out to the parking lot. Usually, my mom will load the groceries in the car while I leave the rollator on the side and walk my way to the passenger seat. After loading the groceries, my mom collapses the rollator and puts it on top of the groceries. This lady followed us out to the car and was waiting there, tapping her foot while we loaded the groceries. I didn't trust her, so I just stood holding the rollator. My mom said, "Go ahead, get in, it's unlocked," and I just shook my head no and tried to subtly point at the lady as to why I wasn't getting in. Mom understood and finished loading the groceries. When she was done, she came up to me, folded down the rollator while I was walking to the passenger side door. Mom folded down the rollator and put it on top of the bags in the car and was closing the door. The lady started shrieking about how we were stealing store property. I don't know if someone got him or what, but a manager type came out and was asking what was going on. The lady screamed about how we were stealing the rollator and she needed to use it. The manager asked my mom about it and she said it was mine and even showed him the plaques bolted on that had my name, emergency contacts, and medications and the schedule I was on in case I needed them. The lady kept screaming that she needed it now that we were done. The manager told her that it was mine, it had information on it that pertained only to me, and that if she needed help, they could find her a mobility scooter or something. She didn't like this and suddenly went from shrieking harpy to sweet old lady, saying, "Well, maybe she could leave it here and I could use it and leave it when I'm done for them to come back and get." The manager asked, "Would that be okay with you?" And my mom, knowing we would never see it again, said that we couldn't. We had other places to go where I would need it. The lady began screaming again while we just drove off. I don't know how it ended up for the manager, but I hope he survived it. Okay, I understand why the manager did what he did because it was appeasement and didn't want to escalate the problem. It was in a very, very, very uncomfortable situation, but he was 100% out of line asking a disabled person if they can leave behind their mobility assistance tool. Like, my man, you would never ask someone in a wheelchair to leave it behind or if they'd be okay with that. It's no different in this circumstance. Also, to ditto this point, I do wonder if this lady would have walked up to someone in a wheelchair, dumped them out on the store floor, and just, "My turn," and walked away with it. Part of me does wonder if she got it in her head that maybe the store had one really nice rollator and that's where it came from, so she was just excited for her turn with it, and then got upset when she realized the stark reality of the situation and threw a temper tantrum about it and, "Oh, if you let me use it, I promise I'll give it back to you." Yeah, I once did it with a copy of Lego Indiana Jones in 3rd grade. Never got it back. Battle Axe 1959. If you're talking loud enough to be heard 3 tables away, I'm joining in. My husband and I were at a casual restaurant we go to a lot and it sounded like a TV playing. I look over and 3 tables away is a couple eating. The woman had her phone propped against her water glass and was having a loud conversation with the phone while she ate. I could hear everything. How fucking rude. So I got up and went over to the offending table. I put my face over the table so the person in the phone could see me. Me? "Hi, how are you?" I figured since I could hear the conversation at my table, I'd introduce myself. "Hi, I'm Nancy. So nice to meet you." Then I went back to my table. I was very disappointed that they discontinued their conversation shortly after. If I'm gonna be 100% honest, people who have conversations on speakerphone in public scare me. Like, to have zero situational awareness and just to be loudly talking with someone on the phone where everyone can hear that conversation, and on top of that, it's never something that's just a casual conversation. Usually it always has some weird, like, intimate, detailed twist that no one wants to hear. I don't want to hear about your toenails fungal infection. Although this does remind me of a time where a buddy of mine and I, we used to walk to the grocery store. It was about like a 3-mile walk, and we would just wander down to it and, pick up some soda, pick up some donuts, pick up some stuff, and just, wander back. Just a good way to spend a night, and it was a good way to catch up and chat. As we were walking down one of the aisles, we heard someone yell out, and, we had heard them on the phone for majority of the time we were shopping because they were being loud, and with it being nighttime, the store was mostly empty. We just hear them go from like a regular conversation with their dogs, just, "Hey, this ice cream's fat-free!" And then it was just back to a regular conversation. And like, I don't know why that conversation just sticks out to me, but it was such excitement and glee over one of the most arbitrary things I think I could consider. This one's posted by Advanced77. That's how it's written out, I promise. Customer tries to order something that isn't on the menu and demands that I go ask the kitchen if they can make it. I was taking dessert orders from a table of 20 people, and I get to this woman and she asks for cheesecake, which isn't on the menu. I tell her that we don't have any, and she just looks at me in a sort of "are you serious" way. Then she said, "You don't have any cheesecake left?" And I said again, "No, sorry. If it isn't on the menu, then we don't have it." And she says, "Can you go check if there's any left from upstairs that I can have? Our hotel has 3 restaurants." And I told her no, that the restaurant upstairs has a separate menu from this one, and we can't serve desserts from upstairs downstairs. And even after I told her maybe 3 times that we don't have cheesecake, she says, "Can you go and ask in the kitchen if they have any?" At this point, I was trying not to lose it at her because I had repeated myself like a million times, but I said okay, and went and asked, and you'll never guess what he said. "If it isn't on the menu, we don't have it." So I went back and told her what I'd already told her over and over again, and she had the audacity to act surprised. And then someone from the same table tried to ask me if I could show her a picture of all the desserts because normally they're all on display. The desserts upstairs are on display and they were sitting downstairs, so I couldn't show her pictures of the whole menu. And she proceeded to argue with me about it and complained that she can't see the desserts because she likes to see what she's ordering, even though all the desserts are pretty self-explanatory. And it got to the point where her daughter, Cheesecake Woman, had to tell her to stop arguing. I swear some people just like to be difficult for no reason. So the story actually reminds me of something that we used to do at my first job. Granted, this was kind of an idea between a bunch of employees. We used to actively remove or replace photos of food to try to encourage or discourage customers from buying certain menu items if we were low on stock on something. So as an example of, let's say that our San Francisco burger was running low on sourdough rolls, we would just simply remove the photo of it and replace it with its sibling, the Hawaiian burger. And normally we would actually see a rapid decline in sales for the San Fran during that period of time until we re-added the picture. People like ordering food they can see pictures of. Pictures make monkey brain neuron fire. And I always found that piece of evidence to be really interesting, the fact that a lot of people just order food based on what looks good, which, I mean, is a very valid thing to do, all things considered. I mean, hell, I do it. The only reason why I'm bringing it up because I found it really interesting, and it's something that I've actively noticed that I as a person do, and I don't know, it's just kind of cool. Monkey brain see delicious food, monkey brain order delicious food, despite the fact that sometimes there might be something even more delicious right below it, but because it's a text-based menu item with no funny pictures to go with it, your brain doesn't really comprehend it. Although, returning to the context of the story, I do kind of understand why there's a bit of confusion, because there is an upstairs level where they steal the desserts, they assume that the restaurants, because they're all in the same building, they're connected, and they can order a dessert from a different restaurant and everything will be fine, thinking it's all under one name, but that's not how that works. And I can certainly understand the confusion. What I do not understand is when the employee tells you numerous times that's not how that works, and they insist, "No, I know better than you," despite the fact that you work here. That's where the problem comes in. There's nothing wrong with asking a clarifying question out of curiosity, but there is everything wrong with talking over the employee and assuming that you know better than them. Jam on toast. B. Is ghosting and blocking my friend who uses me as a free babysitter okay? This was our conversation yesterday. Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit for my friend? My friend asked me to help her babysit her son and take him to and from summer school whilst she's at work tomorrow and the rest of the week. The thing is, my niece gave birth this week via a C-section, and I'm staying with her at her house and helping her while she heals because her husband works and can't be there all the time, and she needs a lot of help as she's still healing. And I told my friend this, and then, at first, she told me that me helping my niece is a good thing, and then, in the very next text message, she proceeded to guilt me by saying things like, "God is watching, and he hears and sees everything," and that she only asked me for a simple favor. She wouldn't accept no for an answer and continued to guilt me and send me more messages trying to get me to say yes, and she was saying things like, she's a nice person with a good heart and a good soul, and she only asked for a small favor. After standing my ground for a while, she messaged me saying that God sends her good people and that she asked her neighbor to help her, which she accepted. and then she finished it by saying her heart is good and clean. What the fuck? Edit 1. I have babysit my friend's son for years free of charge because I knew she had no money and because he wasn't a bother. And another thing is, her son is sick and she refuses to take him to the doctor, claiming they won't do anything after I have told her repeatedly for weeks to take him, and her son's coughing also made one of my children sick as well, because no one else in our family is sick except her son. Thankfully, I took my child to the doctor and they gave them medicine and they're better, but she refuses to do the same for her kid. Sometimes she acts like I can be at her beck and call and babysit for her 24/7 regardless of what's going on in my personal life or if I'm busy. By the way, she does have other friends or neighbors that live nearby her that can help her, but instead she calls me all the time because she knows I'm the least likely to say no. And this is what happened today. This morning, whilst one of my children, who has work in a couple hours' time, was sleeping, her son was knocking on our door and she was on the phone with him, telling him to knock louder, as that's what my child heard her say when they called me asking if they should open the door, and I told my child not to and that he can go to summer school and be there early as the school is across the street from my house, and that I told her yesterday I wasn't going to be home, but she still sent her son my way. And in the afternoon, she told the summer school teacher to drop her son off at my house without even asking me first if it was okay, and one of my kids, who was about to leave for work, answered the door thinking it was me or someone else, and then I had to come back home in order to watch her son as he was going to be alone otherwise, and I do not like the idea of her child, or any child for that matter, being alone in my house because if anything happens to them, that's on me since it's my home. Luckily, my niece's husband was home today as his day off from work, so he's able to look after her while I waited for the kid's mom to arrive to pick her up. And then, when she came to pick him up, she told me that all she wanted was for him to sit in my living room and watch TV whilst he waited for her, and that she didn't ask for too much. I just want to add this because this keeps going and it is really starting to frustrate me. Please use punctuation. Edit. And she also said that the lady she made the deal with to take her son to summer school in the morning didn't work out because her son was sleeping by the time she left for work in the morning, and by the time he got ready to leave, he didn't know that she had made a deal with the neighbor, and she said she forgot to tell him about the whole thing, which I think is bullshit, and she just wanted to have an excuse for her son to stay at my house again before and after school. And I think she dropped him off at the bus stop near my house and told him to come and knock on my door before she went to work, and then lied and said he came all by himself. Update again. I told her that I didn't want her to bring her son over anymore and that I thought it was manipulative and fucked up that she just brought her son over despite me telling her that I wouldn't be home, and that she endangered her son because if my son was not home, then anything could have happened to him. I told her that I hated how she used God in order to guilt me to say yes. I also told her that it's not my fault if she willingly endangers her son, and I will take appropriate action if it comes to it. And I finished it off by telling her that God is watching and hearing her as well. She then replied by telling me that she only has one child and I have more than one child, and that I'm using that in order to hate her and her son. She then told me that I told her a long time ago that her and her son could come to my house anytime, like I can't have plans or anything come up, and that it's my fault that I want to help my family and that I have to be available to her beck and call 24/7 no matter what. And then she told me that I should basically be ashamed to call myself a religious person after threatening her and her son, and that God is watching my heart against her and her son. She then told me she sent my message to her family who live in a different country to, I think, prove how unreasonable I'm being. She then told me the message was saying bad things about her and her son and trying to gossip about them. I have zero problems with her child, I just have a problem with her not respecting a no when I already told her and trying to gaslight and guilt me into accepting her son coming to my house when I have plans. That was our last conversation. I have not talked to her since. This entire circumstance is definitely unacceptable and she should not be just leaving her child at someone else's home with no guarantee of her child being watched. That is unacceptable and she's definitely entitled to believe that she's, entitled to his time no matter what. This post definitely felt like a stream of consciousness, which is entirely fine. I encounter these a lot, and I can definitely understand why, because this is an extremely frustrating circumstance to be in, and I really do think that if this happens again, you should probably get the authorities involved because her behavior is honestly ridiculous. And this is a scenario where going no contact is 100% on the cards and on the table. Can't believe this is true. Daily visitors at dinner time finally decide to stop dropping in after seeing this. This happened decades ago in a small rural town. Not my story, but they don't subscribe, so I'm posting. A young couple, expecting a baby, live a few towns over from parents. Due to circumstances, mom is buying groceries for them. Son tells mom and older couple just keep dropping in every evening, just before dinner, and always stay to eat with them. They don't know what to do to stop them. Mom says, I'm buying food for you and your family. I can't afford to feed them too. This has to stop. Son, yes, I know. I'm thinking about what I can do. Later, son tells mom all is good, problem solved. They aren't coming back. He explains that after he ate his dinner, he called his large dog over to lick the plate clean. The dog did a very good job, left nothing at all on his plate. Then he says, well, this one's clean, opens the cabinet and puts it in with the other clean plates. The couple left almost immediately, not even finishing what was left on their plates, and never came back. So with this being decades ago, this was definitely different times, but I want to know what circumstances led to this couple thinking they could just show up every night for dinner and that would be entirely fine. Like, I know there's probably different times and different standards at play, but at the same time, like, there's gotta be like something that caused them to begin to think they could begin to just show up every single night. I mean, at the same time, like, yeah, maybe like once in a while, sure, with permission, but every night and just stealing food? They probably thought they could just keep getting a free meal ticket from these people, and that's fucked up. I'm glad they got pseudo-traumatized by watching a dog lick the plate clean that they just ate off of. Oh, that's brilliant. I wonder how silent that drive home was for them. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.